Economic Development, Public Protection, Tourism, and Energy. At this time, we'll have Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Representative Gooch, Representative King,
Present.
Representative Lehman,
Here.
Representative Wesley, Representative Witten,
Here.
Representative Bowling, Representative Bray, Representative Petrie, Vice Chair McPherson, Chair Fugate.
Here. Thank you. We do not have a quorum, so we will not approve the minutes from the last two meetings. But today we have Secretary Noel with the Cabinet for Economic Development, and he's going to give us a cabinet overview today and an update on the PDI program. If you'll come on up to the table, sir. And we appreciate you coming always, and you and your staff coming to our meetings and give us.
Microphone on,
Right.
and can speak to the issues.
Yep.
But just as importantly, I always want to make sure that we meet your all's objectives. And so what I'm going to do is have my usual slides,
All right.
get through them quickly, open it up for questions and answers. And I've been trained finally that people know I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. So always bring really good people with you. And so that's why I brought, Katie and Matt, because they're really good people and really smart folks. So I appreciate them being here.
All right, thank you. If you'll introduce yourself, all three of you, and then raise your right hand, we'll hear your testimony. Go ahead and introduce yourself first.
Jeff Noel.
Katie Smith, Deputy Secretary.
Matt Wiggett, I'm the General Counsel.
All right, raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right, thank you. And you may proceed.
Again, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, if there's any questions, you can just stop me. We'll go through them. Again, I intend to go through these very quickly, but we can send you the decks. I think you already have it. And I always feel like it's important to give you that background information so that you have it, and then we can have good questions and answers. And again, I'm going to flip through this fairly quickly. And already, there we go. I'm good. I'm going to skip through the opening slides, but I do want to remind everyone that our blueprint makes it very clear what our mission is, not only to create jobs, but to really help people improve their lives in the home. And to do that, we know we have to win the automotive sector. Let me underscore that. We have to win all the transformation happening in the automotive sector, which I could go into all the reasons why. We truly have to lead the nation in terms of the manufacturing renaissance. I think it's very important that we also develop tools to attract more business and financial professional services. There's 1.7 million jobs in that category that are going to be created over the next 5 years. And I think we also have to embrace our just natural assets, focus on the great things tourism can bring with all the wonderful 120 counties that we have, but also realize we're right in the heart of this country, which makes us a logistical, haven. Focus more on those value-add opportunities in that space. And let's also put energies, resources behind betting on those high-tech winners like agri-tech, aerospace, you name it. Those are the kind of things we have to focus in on. And to do that, we have to provide the very best services to all of our existing and prospective companies looking at the area. We, I think, as a cabinet and as all economic developers, need to be more active in leading the access to and use of all the workforce tools that are out there for our businesses. We should be focusing on the placemaking, the quality of life, and working with our communities on the things that they are doing, while we also are cultivating innovation and entrepreneurship from top to bottom. So that's our real purpose. I could go through each and every one of the metrics, but you can see we've had good results. We've had good announcements. The thing we are most proud of is what is the average wage before benefits that we have achieved in our announcements since 2019, and we were approaching right at $27 an hour last year with all of our incentivized jobs. To underscore that, the jobs we use incentives for, we try to go after the ones that pay really well, they have to provide benefits, and they also hopefully are in these strategic industries so that we can win the automotive transformation lead, and I won't go through them, but you understand what it is that we are trying to do. Katie, I know I shouldn't be driving this. The other thing that I'd like to point out is I really believe there's a lot of statistics that say, most jobs are created by small and medium-sized companies. That is absolutely true, and we have a lot of tools to work with them. But ultimately, small and medium-sized companies have to sell to somebody. And so I'm also a really big believer that the original equipment manufacturers are those companies that are actually procuring from large groups are really important to have in your state so that your small and medium-sized businesses have customers that are very stable, that are out there on the cutting edge, and I believe you got to have a mixture of both. Small, medium-sized companies as well as those large companies that are procuring from large groups. And the EV industry is a great example of that when you look at kind of the OEMs that have come, the big battery manufacturers, but all those companies around this include both existing companies and new companies bringing the technologies and the supply chain that will feed that EV industry as a whole. That's the real methodology of success. Great companies that are on the demand side in terms of procuring, small, medium-sized businesses that are able to take advantage of those opportunities in your state. Just some quick examples that we've had in the past year, and I'd say one, they're geographically, I think, diverse, but I like them because they're from diverse industries that are out there. You know, one is Mizcan. All the ragu tomato sauce you buy almost in this country is manufactured there. They did a major expansion in Owensboro. We have the Shelbyville battery facility. We have the Belmark facility that did a nice expansion. And then I think one that really is significant in Maysville and Mason County was Mitsubishi Electric. There was an ICE part process they were providing to the automotive sector that was going away. They completely reinvented themselves and reinvented their product line. Most companies go to other states when they do that. We actually worked with them to actually build a process and use some of our tools to help them make that investment in the new heat pumps and some of the other things they're doing in that space. Another area that I am actually of the opinion we do great work, and that's working with those small to medium-sized companies. As you all know, we have hub operations around the state to work with small and fast-growing businesses. There was 877 jobs created through that process, $346 million of investment. And I think that it's that kind of balance, recruiting, helping existing businesses grow, but also working with those small, high-tech startup businesses around the state. That's the secret to success, and those are the kind of metrics we have everywhere that we go. I would also just like to come back another time, and I think we could spend an entire day on some of the programs that we fund, like the hubs or like the Kentucky Science and Technology Council. It's actually a group that many years ago we helped form and create in a way that could bring long-term value. And just quickly, Commonwealth Ventures, which helps companies link into higher tech education, $90 million in the last year. 12 companies really got that funding from federal sources to grow. The Kentucky Intellectual Property Alliance, which helps make sure that entrepreneurs and even large companies know how to protect their intellectual property. We helped hundreds of companies last year in that area. And then our Engineering Foundation of the Kentucky Science and Technology Council really helped work with 220 companies in leveraging federal funding, whether it's in the engineering space or the high-tech space, but those are the kind of things that program does. And another one is in Advanced Kentucky, which is really the STEM programs to work in the high schools. Almost 3,000 students participated. I could get into those details and spend a lot of time, but sometimes we overlook the benefit of the programs that fall within our cabinet that have a broad reach in terms of trying to touch the elements that of the building blocks of building, I think, a great economy. Also within that group is Kentucky Valor, working with all the military that are transitioning both here in Kentucky or from Kentucky. And there were over 1,100 individuals that specifically worked through that program to figure out their next career step. Again, building blocks for a great state going forward. I think the summary data for where we are can be helpful for you within your communities. You know, we had, I'd say, 1,050 property submittals that we had to deal with. We had some 200-something what I call requests for information. Sometimes when you bind all that information, it can be about this thick, and then you're able to recommend multiple sites across the state to that company requesting that level of information. We track and we know that 109 counties got referrals, and we did 1,046 specific referrals, and we actually actively saw 180 projects come to fruition, maybe not announced, but actually come in and do site visits and look at the state of Kentucky. In a lot of cases, they may be put on hold, but I wanted to give you that information just from a comparative perspective. And the last one that I'll go through is, you know, we have a commitment that we don't work in a way that the local economic developers feel like they have to come to Frankfort or that we are at the top of the food chain. We flip it. we are a servant in which we work for the local economic developers in the local community. So structurally, we have a commitment 3 times a year to go out into the communities in the 5 regions and hold half-a-day meetings, not to say, this is what we're doing. These are conversations where we listen to what the local folks are telling us, and these are the kinds of initiatives that we've identified that we're working on together, including, how do we make sure that our incentive tools are more localized to fit the needs in the regional areas? And that's why I feel like this is a great breakthrough where we commit to go. And by the way, we will not have a meeting unless 2 of the 3 of our staff as follows: the secretary, deputy secretary, or commissioner of business development. It takes 2 of those 3, and I'm very proud to say that we've actually had 100% attendance of the key 3 throughout all these meetings last year. I know I'm going quickly, but summary tag so you can look at that in terms of the other programs and the other outcomes. I'm a big believer in what's the impact, and I can just go through a few of them very quickly. 35,000 folks were trained through the Bluegrass State Skills funding. That's a huge benefit for existing companies and healthcare providers because they're eligible. The Kentucky Small Business Tax Credit Program, 177 businesses benefited from that work, but to get a tax credit requires Katie and Matt working with the company to do a contract to make sure the paperwork is done. And last but not least, and I keep saying that today, the Kentucky Entertainment Incentive Program that falls within our cabinet. I'm very proud of the fact that compliance, tracking, and making sure the structure of these transactions are done the right way so the state gets the benefit from it. But I'm also very proud of the fact that we did 77 of those transactions last year with about $200 million of total investment, and 7,400 people were hired. They may have been part-time on contract, but 7,400 people that are in the creative space were paid through the program of the Kentucky Entertainment Incentive. So these are the kind of things that we track and follow up on. And I know that there's a lot of interest in the grant program. Let me take a step back. Should have had a slide that says thank you very much. Placemaking, workforce are the enablers of economic development. Leveraging federal grants for local communities to go after those kinds of opportunities is a perfect fit within our cabinet. And to Katie and Matt and the team, we got that program sometime at the end of the last session, and we began actually taking applications in June. And to date, proud of the fact that we have 155 projects in total that have been approved. $99 million of those funds have been committed, and you can see the leverage factor with federal funding and total projects. Now, federal funds have not all been approved, but they are reserved for this project. And you can see that 76 counties have already received not one, but multiple, and I think that's Perry County that you see in the dark blue, that have had almost 20 applications already approved. We're seeing smaller communities that have not heretofore had the capacity to go after federal grants being awarded. And this is the range of everything from new water sewer, public safety, housing, workforce initiatives, splash pads, you name the gamut. It's up to the community to decide their priorities. And so feel really good about that, except for one thing. We need to see 120 counties benefit from the program. So we have done an outreach to all the area development districts, which are our process partners, and to Grant Ready Kentucky, so that we can make sure that they are reaching out to specifically the communities that have not been awarded a grant program yet to see how we can help them make sure they take care of the program and take advantage of this next year or this year, where we have another $100 million of that pool of funding to provide under this program. And this information is all available, so the maps and the locations are all available for you. And any other questions, please let us know. I want to now get into the Kentucky Product Development Initiative. I've gone through some slides so that you have it. A lot of people use this term shovel ready, and I've heard that all my life in economic development, even on the private sector side. So I put a lot of my definitions in here, but I think you got to have a template, and you got to have a definition to call a site shovel ready, not just the due diligence, but the community's got to be ready. There's got to be a vision of the community. And since we've started this KPDI program, it's amazing how many of the communities have stepped their game up, defined what their workforce areas are like, actually articulated their vision, and through some of the processes where our consultant goes to the local community, they're engaging with the right officials and the right community leaders to be part of this process. It's an amazing, I think, transformation, and we appreciate you all doing this program. And also, I'm back to kind of the definitions of what we're trying to achieve. This is the statute itself. And in 2024, this is probably a build slide. Basically, what you all did, and I want to thank you again, you changed the local match requirements from 50-50 to a staggered level based upon population and other demographic information. That's how come we've seen so many communities participate. And also, I think it's important that we have really worked on making sure that we've got impactful projects, and we preach a lot, but it's really starting to happen. You're seeing an application come in that's actually tapping into what had already been at a previous program or a previous project, and they're linking them and showing how the benefits to the community come by having both of them fully funding and operational. Or you're seeing a vision in which if we can do this, this will lead to a training center that we can bring jobs in and train them in partnership with our local high schools. Those kinds of big thinking, the visions for what these grants can do, that's how you get them approved, that's how you get them awarded. And really, we are seeing great results. We had someone in yesterday, the mayor, and lovely lady, and she asked me, what should we be doing? I said, can you just write your grants from your heart? And all of a sudden, I started hearing her heart. She described everything they were trying to do and the reasons behind it. Bingo. She's going to be so successful because we can help her understand how to go through these grant processes. And that's really, I think, the benefit of the entire program, if you will. These build slides are always difficult for me. Process. I want to underscore this. KPDI programs and projects working with the Kentucky Association of Economic Developers are all scored, reviewed by independent consultants that in their other job, they work for companies doing the very same thing. If you were to go out and hire a consultant to come into your community and give you that kind of feedback to help you understand what you need to do to be really ready for those kinds of opportunities, it'd be in the thousands of dollars. So think of this program that you will have provided not just in dollars awarded, but capacity built and understanding gained as a result of the program. Now, details. We're out here finalizing the 2024 rounds of these programs. The on-site visits have been completed and taking place, and then the recommendations for projects that move into due diligence phase will occur throughout this year, and then we'll have some other details for the projects going forward. Understand that process is really the really critical factor here. You just don't submit an application and get funding tomorrow. As an example, if you're doing land acquisition, we do work with the communities to make sure that title work is done, to make sure that if there are mineral rights, how do we deal with those issues, to make sure we can validate what are the sewer requirements. The due diligence is really the value that we bring before we disperse the funding to make sure everything is lined up and done properly. But over the course of 2024, we've had all the projects that have begun. Throughout May and December of this year, the EDF applications and approvals with KEDFA will take place. And I believe, Katie, then that the funding and the disbursement of funds all have to be completed by 12/31/2027. Don't take this to say there won't be disbursement of funds till then. This is disbursement of funds must occur between now and then. So that's kind of the guidelines for the program. But what you're probably most interested in, and I've got a map that I'm going to show you in a second, we've kind of gone through the pilot projects and the first round of 2022, that there's 109 projects that have been awarded. And now I can say that in 2024, we've got 45 requests for information that have gone after availability of $35 million of funding. Now, the total requests of those 45 projects is $81 million, which I think is a good thing. It's showing that the project and the program is working and there's real demand for it. And this gives you a sense of the disbursement of these KPDI grants across the state. And the team has worked extremely hard. In addition to our turf meetings, we typically have combined that in the morning or afternoon, depending upon when the turf meeting took place, to do on-site visits with communities and with economic developers about the KPDI program, the grant program. And I really, truly believe by doing that, going out into the state, making sure we're meeting with local folks, is one of the reasons we've seen a really good dispersion of communities across the state of Kentucky get access to the KPDI program. More to be done. And we have very high standards, and our goal is that all 120 counties in the grant program and in the KPDI program take advantage of, or at least tell us why they did not take advantage of both of these programs. I can give you the successes to dates in terms of jobs and all that type of information. But looking at the clock, I think I've used up most of my allotted time. But I wanted, Mr. Chairman, to give you a sense of how we did last year, what the big vision is, how our blueprint is working, the fact that we're working with the local communities. And I want to come back to the chairman and say thank you to you, because I believe it was just in the first early months that I had come onto the job, I was in this chair, and you brought up to me that we needed to do more to work with Eastern Kentucky. We need to do something structurally to realize tourism and other kinds of projects were just as important to different parts of the state. So when we did our blueprint work, we created an overall advisory committee of economic developers, and then we created a carved out rural and then an Eastern Kentucky advisory committee. Those groups still exist. In fact, on the 18th of March, we have another meeting to go to the topics that were discussed in the turf meetings. Here's the results, here's what we've done, and to talk about other things that we should be doing together to make sure we're not doing a one-size-fits-all, but rather we're listening to and working with the local community folks and the economic developers across the state. And I don't know any other way to do it than to do it structurally. 120 counties, we've kind of coalesced around 5 regions, and those 5 regions map up identically to the area development districts, and then we have the meetings out in the turfs based on in those each of those regions along with our area development districts. So again, we appreciate the chance to work with the legislative bodies. We appreciate the chance to work with this committee. And I think just as importantly, we really appreciate the input we get from all of you as individual members, even if it's taking me to the woodshed, because my team does a great job. If it's messed up, I usually am the cause. But we need to have that straight talk, those good conversations. That's really a process, in my humble opinion, that works great. Executive branch, legislative branch, we kind of in the administrative side, and we know that we work for you, we work for the local community, and we have an openness and willingness to have great conversations with each other in any and every step along the way.
Thank you, Secretary. Representative Whitten.
Thank you, Secretary. Thanks for the great presentation. If you could go back to the pilot map that I just had a question. I'm a representative from Louisville, and I'm just curious of these years from 2022 down to 2024. It doesn't seem like any were in Jefferson County. Is that a reflection of kind of the projects, or since there's so many businesses and population in Jefferson County, that just seemed surprising to me.
Absolutely. First of all, Jeff O'Brien, the mayor, GLI, love working with all of them. If anything, this is a reflection not on the fact that applications come in from companies. Applications typically come in either from the community or the Industrial Development Authority to either acquire land, which is the product, or make improvements to the land. And I think one of the things that you would agree is that there needed to be, and I think that's what the mayor has done working with GLI and now bringing in Trevor Paul to head up LEDA. They really need to get their arms around what their strategy is, where they want to go, and where they want to put their energies behind the availability of land to then come in and apply for the KPDI projects. I have a feeling, just based on some conversations, the pipeline is there. They're coming after some of those things. But it's a great question, something we've made sure that we were aware of that. But I think if you were to speak to Pat Malloy or to Jeff or to the GLI folks, just saw some of them downstairs earlier today, and to the mayor, we have worked very close with them on their strategy, their development work, and we've had really good conversations, I think, about how can we help, and when you're ready, let us know so that we can make sure, because they need more land and more developable opportunities in Jefferson County without a doubt. So I think it's more a matter of where they were in the process, and the old-fashioned statement goes, Katie bar the door. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of input from them. But it's a great question. And I'll try to shorten my answers for you.
Representative Lehman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for coming here today. I have a question, maybe not directly related, but as you are obviously spending a lot of time with retaining companies here, attracting new companies here, in some other areas of the legislature, there's some talks about some pretty substantial changes to occupational safety and health standards in Kentucky. I'd appreciate your feedback. Or is this something that from a competitiveness perspective that you're hearing from potential companies looking to move here or to grow here, is Kentucky's current occupational safety and health plan, which we're a state plan, is this of a concern, or is this affecting our competitiveness, or there have been companies that turn down opportunities here because of that? So I'd appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
And I want to give you the straightforward, honest answer, which includes an element of I don't know. But I believe folks that are, more engaged in that space can give good answers. But we have not heard that Kentucky is either advantaged or disadvantaged by our occupational safety and health guidelines and regulations. And setting aside for a second what those guidelines may be, whatever they say, I do hear regularly that one thing that makes doing business in Kentucky so much easier is we have structure in place and people in place where we personally engage with any companies should they have those questions, and we put them in contact with the right individuals to try to work through it, make sure there's an understanding of it. So I'm not trying to step away and not answer your question. I can do more research into that, but it is not an area that we have heard a lot from, or if we've heard questions, our processes in getting people connected, getting them in front of the regulatory groups or the safety individuals and talking it through has actually resulted in, usually it seems that it takes care of itself. But I will look into that, and I'll be happy to get back to you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Representative Wesley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to apologize for being late. I had 3 schools up in my office, and all these kids are from 4-H. But I really enjoyed your presentation, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much, and our commissioner, and appreciate you guys being here today. Thank you.
I love all of the green shirts, the blue jackets, and I ate lunch downstairs with a bunch of the kids, and I even offered one of them to take my job when he's ready. So he said he was going to call me. So it is a great day to have all the kids here.
Secretary, I just want to say thank you to you all really listening to us in the last couple of years, because when we first started, there was no dots east of 75. And now there's a lot. And so thank you for working with our people in East Kentucky, not just my district, but all of the district down in East Kentucky. It's good to see that our counties in Eastern Kentucky have been awarded grant opportunities, and just there's a lot of work that goes on down in the mountains and rural Kentucky. And so I just want to say thank you for working hard with everybody all over across Kentucky, and especially East Kentucky, my home. So. And thank you for coming today. It's always a privilege to have you come to the committee. All right, committee members, I think this is the last meeting of the session. There may be one more, not sure yet, but we'll let you know. We don't have a quorum to approve the minutes from the last meeting, so we have a motion to adjourn. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.